Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to another episode of Body Geeks. Today I'm going to answer the question, should you train to muscle failure when you exercise? Check it out. Alright guys, so I think that this is an important topic to cover, because if you're checking it and you're watching the channel, I'm trying to share some information with you that can help you as a bodybuilder, whether you're a competitor or you're just trying to build some muscle or improve your physique. And the concept of training to muscle failure has been around forever. It's been a part of so many different training programs and plans and philosophies and hypotheses and you name it. And if for those of you that follow the academic community, you're aware that there's multiple positions on this topic, multiple answers. Let's just say that if you follow the academics, you can find people that are supportive of the concept of training to muscle failure, saying that you either need to reach it to stimulate growth, or you need to reach those, maybe 4, 5, or 6 reps prior to, like, reaching muscle failure are the reps that count. And then you'll find even other opinions and actual supportive evidence showing that it doesn't matter at all. So if you have a bias or a preference of one that you're trying to support, you're going to be able to find academic information that's going to support whatever you believe or whatever you're trying to promote. And I think that it's important to follow the academics and the people conducting the studies, because eventually they're going to have a breakthrough and they're going to continue to find more and more information and make this answer clearer and clearer. That said, at this point in time, if I wanted to tell you, yes, you need to reach muscle failure, or, well, you need to get close to muscle failure, or it doesn't matter at all, I could support that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my opinion on it, which is basically my own hypothesis, right? Or some of my own anecdote, which is my personal experience, what I've done previously, or what I know of others to do, or other pro bodybuilders or bodybuilders to do, or whatever, you name it. So the question is, should you train to muscle failure when you exercise? Or should your program be designed in a way where you're constantly chasing muscle failure? Now, I want to point out that that's kind of a vague question, right? So if somebody were to ask me that, if you said, hey Brandon, should I train to muscle failure? I'd have to say, well, what are the other variables? Like how, what sort of weights are you using with muscle failure? How frequently are you training that muscle to muscle failure? Is your nutrition on point? Are you eating sufficient calories to grow? Are you resting enough? Are you hydrated? I mean, there's all these other things, because if you train to muscle failure, which will stimulate the muscle to grow, but you don't eat properly to feed it, to give it what it needs to grow, well, then it's not going to recover. Same thing with not getting enough sleep. Same thing for being dehydrated. Like all these other variables, right, which will affect performance and affect recovery. Well, then training to muscle failure at that point doesn't really matter, because yes, you're able to stimulate the growth, but you're not able to do the other part and allow the body to actually recover and rebuild and grow, right? So in my perspective, and from my point of view, I think that I would tell people that they should be training to muscle failure, and here's why. I think that whether or not reaching muscle failure ends up to be like something that the academics say, like, yes, you have to reach it, right? If they say like, hey, it doesn't really matter, I think that they're going to find that you need to at least get close. And I think that getting close, I think that the theory, the concept of the maybe 5 to 6 reps prior to failure. So like say you're doing a 10 rep set, right? And you're like 10, 9, 8, like these are just warming up reps. Then you get to the harder reps where like you're 5 to 6 away from failure, where you start to grind, that those are the ones that stimulate growth. I think that they're going to find that at some point getting close to muscle failure is where the stimulation occurs. Probably more so than reaching it, and more so than if you were so far away from it, right? And so my reasoning for telling people to still chase muscle failure is that it's not a physically easy thing to do, because you have to really push yourself. But it's in terms of logging and tracking your performance, and in terms of the effort that you're applying in the gym, it's an easy concept to apply. I'm going to lift this weight as many times as I can until I can't, is a pretty concept to apply, right? Now, that said, actually enacting that, actually putting it into play to, physically, it hurts, you get out of breath, your heart rate increases. I mean, like, there's all these things that your mind is going to tell your body, stop, right? Stop pushing it so hard. It's going to, like, almost a defense mechanism. And I think that most people that say they train to muscle failure don't actually get close. So I think it's safe to tell most people to train to muscle failure because most of them are going to fall short. And if you're one of the rare examples, rare cases where you're always training to muscle failure and you have that ability, well, then you probably already figured out how hard you need to push yourself to build muscle. Because if you've pushed yourself that far for that long, then you've probably got your answer for yourself, and you're probably fairly confident on how you have built the muscle that you've acquired already, right? So now that said, I think it's important to note, to recognize that you shouldn't train to muscle failure like that. Even though I'm advocating it, yes, I'm advocating training to muscle failure. You shouldn't do it on every set or even every exercise, right? Because there is a point where you can do too much, and at that point you're just more or less risking injury. And once you've stimulated a muscle to grow, right, you're not going to stimulate it more and more and more and more. Now, yes, you may be able to activate more muscle cells or muscle fibers, right, to make them grow bigger, but if you've, it's kind of like turning on a light switch, right? If I turn the light switch on, I can't turn it on more, it's on. So like if you stimulate the muscle to grow, you stimulate it, now get to the recovery part. So putting that into perspective, like an example for you guys, you need to take into account frequency. So if I'm training my biceps to failure, right, and I'm doing it on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, and I'm doing it every day, well, that's probably too frequent of exercise, especially taken to muscle failure. I'm not giving the bicep a chance to recover, and therefore not giving it a chance to grow. So you have to factor in frequency. So let's say I train my biceps to failure once a week. Well, maybe that's enough of a stimulation to get it to grow, but maybe I can stimulate it more frequently than that. In theory, stimulate, recover, grow. Stimulate, recover, grow. That's the process we're in, right? So stimulate through exercise, recover through sleep and nutrition, and grow over time. Ta-da! Repeat the cycle, build a big bicep, right? Now, if I stimulate once a week, say every Monday, then I'm stimulating on Monday, I'm recovering, and I'm growing throughout the rest of the week, and I'm stimulating on Monday. So I'm going to stimulate it 52 times a year, right? Once a week. What if I was able to recover faster for whatever reason? Genetics, you're using performance enhancement, supplements, you name it. And say you start training it 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You can see that you're now stimulating it 3 times as much as you were in the original plan. So there's a point where you have to figure out, if I'm pushing it to muscle failure to stimulate growth, how frequently am I doing that? And am I allowing myself to the rest and recovery to grow as needed in between those sessions? So now that I got that out of the way, I also want to point out that I think that if you train to muscle failure on too many different exercises per workout for the same muscle group, that could also be problematic. So usually when you go to the gym, you're not just going to train your biceps, right? You're probably training like back and biceps if you're doing a common split, or you're training multiple body parts, a big body part, the small body part, right? Or on the big body parts, you may be hitting it from different angles to stimulate different muscles, because the back, even though it's listed as one body part for a workout, well, there's a whole bunch of muscles in the back that all perform different functions, so you need different angles and exercises to do it. So I would say that in an aggressive workout plan, if you took your last set to failure on every exercise with a realistic frequency, I think that that's okay for some people that can handle it. For others, you may only need 1 exercise, maybe 2 exercises max, where you take the last set to failure. So my biceps, for example, I may only take them to failure on 1 set every time I work them out. So the other sets leading up to that are more or less kind of like warm-ups or pump sets or whatever you want to call it, serving a completely different purpose. But if we get into the nitty-gritty of like what reps are stimulating muscle growth, if we're going to kind of assume that it's somewhere around failure, well, how frequently should we reach failure? My theory is that I like to take my last set of every exercise to muscle failure, where I'm trying to progress either via logbook or whatever, meaning I'm trying to get more reps or do a heavier weight or whatever on a fairly consistent basis. I'll have to do another video where I talk about how to progress up and then back off and progress up and back off, right? But if I'm on week 1 Monday, I'm lifting 50 pounds. for 10 reps, and on week 1 Wednesday I'm lifting 50 pounds for 11 reps, and on week 2 Monday I'm lifting 52 pounds. See what I'm saying? Like, there's going to be a progression up there. That I really only need to do that for a small muscle like biceps, maybe on one exercise. So that means there's only one set on all the bicep training you're doing, one set where you're pushing it to muscle failure. So if you're doing 2 or 3 exercises for the biceps for 3 or 4 sets apiece, but you're only really focusing on that one set with your logbook and pushing it to muscle failure, well, the rest of them you could maybe focus on contraction or focus on getting a pump or whatever. You're not really beating it to death with this full-on, like, complete muscle failure training. So I hope that's making sense for you guys. A bigger muscle group like the back, I might have 2 or 3 exercises where the last set I'm taking it to muscle failure. I can say pretty certainly that I rarely or will never do more than 1 set to complete failure per exercise, unless that's part of like a rest pause set or a drop set where I'm trying to increase the intensity, which I've covered those in previous videos, but I'll cover them again too. So I hope that, let me see here, we are at 10-minute video, so I'm going to wrap this up. I hope that that makes sense to you guys. Just a little recap that if you follow the academics, you know that there's evidence supporting that yes, go to muscle failure, yes, get close to muscle failure, or no, it doesn't matter. But at the same time, we have evidence showing that, like, the percentages of your 1 rep max, that if you push to failure, that there's a point where I think if I recall correctly, I saw Schoenfeld, who's a PhD, I believe in exercise physiology, he posted that if you train with less than 20% of your 1RM, that you may not be able to stimulate muscle growth with, by pushing it to failure or close to failure. But anyways, I'll have to try and find that. I'll post it right now so you guys can look at that. You go to his Instagram page and look more into it. But point being is that you can use academic evidence to support whichever view you have. But one thing's for sure is that we know that you have to train hard to build muscle growth, to stimulate the muscle to grow. Like, it doesn't just come easily for most people. And that amount of effort is probably going to ultimately lead to us saying that you have to be close to failure to stimulate muscle growth in some way. So to answer the question, should you train to muscle failure? Yes, you should. But you should probably only do so maybe for the 1 set of every exercise at the most. And you should definitely factor in how frequently you're doing it for each muscle. So are you doing it once a week or twice a week? And depending on how frequently you're doing it, are you allowing enough rest and getting enough calories to facilitate growth from all that stimulation? So I hope that makes sense. I hope that answers your question. Please give me your comments, your feedback, your questions. I'll do my best to help. Give me thumbs up, thumbs down, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. So yeah, until next time, I hope you enjoyed this video. You're tuned in to Body Geeks.